Good evening, India. This is the triple train tragedy that we are talking about. More than 261 lives lost, more than 900 people survived this, sustained injuries, and are currently receiving treatment at several hospitals near Balasore. The Prime Minister Modi went to the accident site, met the officials, took stock of the situation, then headed straight to the Balasore Government Hospital, spoke to the injured, and then released a video statement in which he is assured justice, said that the guilty and the culprit will be punished. The Prime Minister also said that he was moved by the devastation all around him. And to talk more about it, we are joined by someone who was actually there. We have Anubhav Das. Anubhav, Times Now पे आपका स्वागत है. आप कोरोमंडल एक्सप्रेस में पैसेंजर थे जब ये पूरा हुआ. सबसे पहले तो आप ये बताइए कि आप अकेले थे, फैमिली मेंबर्स थे आपके साथ जब ये हादसा हुआ? उस समय क्या आप जगे हुए थे, सो रहे थे, कहां थे, बताइए प्लीज.
हाय, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर हैविंग मी. सबसे पहले तो बात ये है कि मैं तो अकेला ट्रैवल कर रहा था. आई वाज ट्रैवलिंग फ्रॉम कोलकाता टू माय होम टाउन व्हिच इज इन कटक. ट्रेन मैंने बोर्ड किया, मैं कोरोमंडल एक्सप्रेस में था. ट्रेन मैंने बोर्ड किया अराउंड 3:20 इन द आफ्टरनून. अब 6:30 बजे तक तो सब कुछ ठीक था, और क्योंकि मेरा स्टॉपेज जो था वो अराउंड 9 बजे के आसपास था, तो मैं 6:30 के आसपास ऑलमोस्ट रेस्ट ही करने लगा था. और मेरी जो कोच थी वो सबसे लास्ट वाली कोच थी, और उसके बाद बस गार्ड्स की कोच थी. और हमारे कोच में से अराउंड 30-35 पैसेंजर्स थे, जो फर्स्ट एसी होती है. एंड 6:30 के आसपास हमने एक लाउड बैंगिंग नॉइज सुना, जबकि अचानक से एक ब्रेक फील हुई, हमें जर्क फील हुई. तब हमें पता चल गया कि सम टाइप ऑफ इंसिडेंट हैज अकर्ड. कुछ तो इंसिडेंट घटा है, जिसके वजह से इमरजेंसी ब्रेक्स वहां पे अप्लाई किया गया. अब हमारा पहला इमोशन तो एक डर का था कि पता नहीं क्या हुआ है, देखना पड़ेगा. तुरंत ही हम वहां से जितना जल्दी हो सके, क्योंकि और हमें कुछ स्मोक्स के भी साइंस दिखाई दिए, बर्निंग स्मेल आने लगी, व्हिच इज प्रोबेबली बिकॉज ऑफ द ब्रेक्स दैट आर इमरजेंसी ब्रेक्स दैट ऑकर. तो हम क्या किए, हम तुरंत ही डिसएम्बार्क करने के लिए सोचे. हम अराउंड 4-5 लोग थे जो जल्दी नीचे उतरने लगे, देखने के लिए कि एक्चुअली में हुआ क्या था. जब हम नीचे उतरे तो हमने देखा कि हमारे सामने तरफ, मतलब जो हमारे जो अपोजिट जो ट्रैक थी, उसके बगल में ही 3 कोचेस डिरेल होके पड़ी थी. अब उस टाइम पे तो हमें पता नहीं था कि ये जो कोचेस डिरेल हुई है ये हमारे ट्रेन के हैं या किसी और ट्रेन के हैं. वो तब तक हमें कुछ पता नहीं था. मैटर ऑफ 1 मिनट में सब कुछ हो गया था. और जब हमने देखा कि सामने कोचेस पड़ी हैं, उसमें से लोग निकल रहे हैं, लोग आके मदद के लिए मांग रहे हैं, बात कर रहे हैं, तो जब उनसे बात की तो पता चला कि वो यशवंतपुर एक्सप्रेस के पैसेंजर्स हैं. अब उन्हें हमने पानी दिया, मेकशिफ्ट बैंडेजेस बनाए. जो कोचेस की
आप जो अभी जो लास्ट आई मिस द लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ व्हाट यू सेड, कि वो जो जब आपको पता चला कि वो जो बोगीज पड़ी हुई थी ट्रैक्स पे या जो डीरेल हो गई थी, वो क्या आपके ट्रेन के थी या किसी और ट्रेन के बोगीज थे?
No, see, when we saw the derailed coaches, we did not know which train those coaches belong to. Okay.
Right.
After interacting with the passengers, those who were coming out and asking us for help, we understood that belonged to the Yashwantpur Express. So at that point of time, we had some kind of insinuation that the Yashwantpur Express has met with an accident, and only our train has applied emergency brakes just as a precautionary measure.
Okay.
Because our coach had not incurred any kind of damage. Okay. And from where we were standing, we could only see 2 to 3 coaches in front of us, and those coaches had also not incurred any damage. Of course, it was night, it was almost late evening, and it was dark. So soon after, I remember calling the 112 emergency services. I told them everything that happened. I told them that you need to send as many ambulances and emergency services, because at that time we had started seeing bodies coming out of those 3 coaches, and things were getting a little out of hand. The guard that came out of that train also was asking us for help. So we understood things were not really that good. But when the ambulances trickled in, we saw the ambulances moving away from our side and towards the front of the Coromandel. That is when it struck to us that something else has also occurred at the front of the Coromandel. A few of my co-passengers, including me, we moved towards the front of the Coromandel, and that is when we saw, after passing about 2 to 3 coaches in front of us, we saw the actual brunt of the Mishap. What lay before us was a mountain of coaches along with the engine of Coromandel. The engine of Coromandel was situated some 2 to 3 stories high. Below that, there were toppled coaches of Coromandel, including some coaches of a freight train. Now, things were becoming very confusing and puzzling because at this point of time, we could make out that 3 trains were involved in this accident. After understanding that we were fine, the next intuition was to help the people there. The local people gathered very quickly, almost about 5 to 10 minutes after the incident, helped us a lot in pulling out people out of the coaches. We did not attempt to make any sort of climbing attempts on the toppled coaches because we did not know if that would help the passengers or even damage the structure even more. And at that point of time, the train tracks, those were absolutely uprooted. The live wires above the train lines hanging low. It was a really scary situation. As and when we moved towards the engine, we saw a lot of dead bodies strewn all around, headless bodies, bodies without arms, severed legs, blood.
Anubhav, I'm sorry to stop you there. Just help me understand, and I'm sorry I'm asking this again. You said the first instance when you saw the bogies, on the tracks, you could not figure out whether these bogies belonged to the Coromandel Express, your train. And then it was only after some time that you found out that the bogies belonged to Yashwantpur Express. Is that correct?
Right.
So
after interacting with the passengers coming out of those 3 bogies.
Okay. So the 3 trains that are involved in this accident, one is the Shalimar-Chennai Coromandel Express, the train on which you were there. The other train is the Howrah Superfast Express, which was coming in from Bengaluru.
Yes.
And the third train was the goods train, which was stationed at the Bahanaga Bazar station, the train in which Coromandel Express rammed into. Is that correct?
Yes, it rammed into the freight train. You are correct. But I would like to make a small clarification here. That particular goods train was not standing on the active line. It was on a loop track. Loop track that is used for parking for vehicles that are waiting for signals to pass through.
Right.
Okay. So there is no incident of a head-on collision or no incident of a neglect from the particular railway official at that station who did not inform the Coromandel Express of a freight train being present, because Coromandel Express's path was absolutely clear. It had cleared its path to move to the next station, which is Bhadra. The incident that actually started this whole chain reaction is the derailment of the engine of Coromandel Express. Now, the derailment of the engine of Coromandel Express, what is the reason behind it? That we do not know. That has to be investigated for sure. Okay. And then the last 3 coaches of the Yashwantpur Express were general bogies, which were overcrowded. As we all know, general bogies are usually overcrowded. The coaches just following the Coromandel's engine, which actually faced the brunt of the mishap, were also the general coaches, 2 general coaches, followed by 9 sleeper coaches, and then 5 3-tier AC coaches were absolutely damaged. So that is almost 16 coaches absolutely damaged, derailed and damaged.
So Anubhav, is it correct then to say that actually 4 trains were involved here?
No, only 3 trains were involved.
3 trains excluding the goods train or including the goods train?
Including the goods train.
And then where is this Yashwantpur Express coming into picture?
So that particular train traveling from Bangalore to Howrah, the Superfast Express, that is usually called the
Oh,
Yashwantpur
okay.
Superfast Express.
Okay, that
I
is
am
the
sorry if I did
Yashwantpur.
not make
Okay.
that clear earlier. I'm
Okay.
sorry about
No, no,
that.
that's okay. That's okay. That can happen. So, you know, I was puzzled because all the statements that we have so far from authorities only talk about 3 trains. So I thought here's an eyewitness account that actually tells about something which has perhaps, you know, not been noticed or documented by, but that's not true. So 3 trains involved. One is the Shalimar-Chennai Coromandel Express. The other is the Howrah Superfast Express coming in from Bengaluru. And the third is the goods train. Okay. So are you saying, Anubhav, that the derailment happens, not the collision?
Yeah, right. That is what has happened, and that is what we have also got to understand from local people who were witness to the incident. This because I'll be very clear that I am not a direct witness to it. What I am trying to tell you is what I have heard from the locals over there, because I was inside the coach when the incident happened. Right.
Where are you right now?
I am right now at Cuttack, at my home.
Okay.
I have returned back home. I returned back last night.
How did you go back?
See, the very first time this incident occurred, I understood that there will be a lot of network problems because many people were starting to call people. I made a call to my father who is here in Cuttack, and he made arrangements of a private vehicle which went there and brought me back.
Okay.
So that was the arrangement. For other people, I'll make sure that I'll tell you that there are also people who were traveling up to Chennai in the Coromandel Express.
Right.
The authorities, the district magistrate made sure that all the buses in those areas were only reserved for these train passengers to be transported to the nearby larger cities or larger towns so that
Okay.
they can go ahead with their forward journeys.
Okay.
That was done. That was a very welcoming step from the district magistrate.
Right.
And also there was a road leading up to this particular train track, because that is a road intersection with the railway track. That particular road is sort of a service road, and it was converted into a green corridor. Only and only emergency services vehicles, including fire services, cranes, and ambulances, were allowed to fly on them. The passengers who were not hurt and were looking to go to the highway, which is situated about 1 kilometer away from this railway tracks, we were allowed only to walk on those roads and go up till the highway.
Okay. Now tell us, after you got down, you were in the last bogie. This is the AC first class compartment that we are talking about. After the noise that you heard, the loud thud, after the engine derailed and the collision thereafter, when you got down from the train, what did you see? What did you do?
The first emotion that comes in is fear. Getting to know what exactly has happened, because the fear of the unknown comes in. But then after seeing so many people in distress, you can't really help but help them. Okay, you have to make sure that they are given as much help that they can be given. And then we also try to contact the emergency services, the nearest police station. We tried calling frivolously, fervently all these emergency services. The response of the authorities was a little late, I would say, because they arrived at around 7:20 to 7:30. But as soon as they arrived, after that, it was absolutely a smooth and swift working structure. They made sure all the passengers who were not hurt were allowed to leave that area in a very orderly fashion. They were even helped. They even helped the authorities, the railway authorities that came in, and the police authorities. They helped us carry our baggages even. And there are a few very old people, senior citizens. Their baggages were also carried by the police people. They made sure that everyone was evacuated soon. The local people also helped a lot. But there is one thing that really comes into everyone's mind who is involved, because two to three of us were in the same coach. We really could not make sure that this particular track was renovated very recently. Okay, and this particular Coromandel Express and the other Howrah Superfast Express both have the LHB rake, which is the most advanced technique as of now in all trains in India. Having advanced raking machinery on a train and having a very recently refurbished and renovated track, and after that, the derailment of a premium train like Coromandel brings out some very weird and odd questions into mind. There might have been some lacuna from the authorities' part, I understand. And I really don't know, and I don't want to cast any aspersions here, but I think there might have been some foul play of sabotage as well.
Okay.
Because as and when we moved ahead, we saw the tracks are not even there. The tracks, tracks had been disparaged differently, but train tracks don't really fall off or break
I
down so
understand,
easily.
Anubhav. I understand, as you know, as the passenger on that train, on board that train, and also as the eyewitness, I understand the concerns and the questions that you have in your mind. And I'm sure the authorities will ascertain the cause of this and the things that you've pointed about the tracks, etc. But let's, for the moment, stick to the things you saw around you, because like you said, the first responders, you have all good things to say about them, whether it is the local people, the police personnel, even the railway authorities who rushed to the side, were extending a helping hand to everyone that needed help. Now, I want you to tell me what happened when the third train came into the picture. Were you there when that collision happened?
See, I'll make this clear. The third train did not come at a later stage into the picture. When the whole incident involving the three trains occurred within a span of about 1 to 2 minutes. And by that time, everything had been toppled. Every incident that had to be done, every derailment that has occurred had occurred. Okay, so it was simultaneous passing of the Yashwantpur-Howrah Superfast Express and the Coromandel Express. That is why the Mishap is this big. They were simultaneously moving past each other at this particular junction.
Okay, that happened all at once. So if I were to ask you about the sequence of events, what would you say?
So if we go very simplification of the sequence of events, derailment of the Coromandel, hitting Coromandel engine, hitting the freight train, the parked freight train, then a coach of the Coromandel, 2 or 3 coaches of the Coromandel slanting towards the other track on which the Yashwantpur Express was already passing through. That is why only the last 3 bogies of the Yashwantpur Express were derailed. The rest of the train has already moved forward about 500 to 600 meters away from our side.
Also, had that happened, we would have been looking at a much higher death toll. Who knows? Because you are saying that more than half of the train had crossed when the bogie of the Coromandel Express, after it derailed, some of the bogies fell off on the other side of the track on which the Howrah train was, the Howrah Express, the Yashwantpur Express was crossing by. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, after you got down from your coach, which was the last coach, the first class compartment of the Coromandel Express, how much time did you spend there before actually leaving the spot?
So the incident occurred around 6:30. We started disembarking around 6:45, and I left that spot at around 10:30. So I was a good, three and a half hours at the spot, because almost for about up till 8 o'clock, the authorities were not in full swing, and up to 8 o'clock, the locals, us co-passengers, were also helping people. And there is one more thing I would like to add here. When we started to go towards the front of the Coromandel Express, where the majority of the accident happened, all these the deaths and the dead bodies that you see around, I can tell you in the first one and a half hour of the incident, I could make out almost 200 to 250 dead bodies in the first 1 and 1.5 hours, because there are even dead bodies catapulted away, and they were lying about 40-50 meters away from the train track as well. Usually the people who stand on doorways on general and sleeper bogies, they were catapulted and thrown away up to 40-50 meters, disfigured bodies. So the death toll that we see now is official. I understand 288, 300 is the death toll. But I'm really sorry to say,
to be precise, 261 is the death toll. 288, it has now risen to 288. That's the official. Yeah. That's right.
But I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that I'm saying this live on television. But the death toll will definitely go above 400 or 500.
Okay, but like I said, Anubhav, let's wait for the authorities to ascertain that number, because it's only responsible on our part, on both your part, my part.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
So I hope you understand that concern. Now, Anubhav, could you please elaborate on the time that you spent good 3.5 hours on the ground? What did you do? What were the people doing? What was the kind of conversation going?
Firstly, there was a little bit of furor and anger with the passengers not seeing the officials or the administration coming in swiftly or quickly, and that slowly, they slowly calmed down as and when co-passengers and the locals came to help them, and because of all these families who had lost people who were not able to find. See, the situation was absolutely chaotic. There are even people in the same coaches trying to find family members, not finding them. So it was very, very, what can you say, a war-like situation at that point. And for the first 1 hour, the locals and the co-passengers tried helping people. After 1 hour, emergency services, NDRF came in. NDRF started to use the gas cutters and try to cut through all these steel coaches, trying to rescue the people. But the coaches that were toppled over each other, while cutting those, that is a very slow process, and they have to go through very slowly because you never know in what condition or orientation that particular coach is, and that is why it took a little bit of more time probably. By 10:30 when I was leaving, I understand that more than 30 to 40 ambulances were already flying, coming and going, taking people away from that place. There were fire people around, fire trucks of 7 to 8 fire trucks. There were 4 to 5 NDRF teams, and even more people coming in. I had a co-passenger in my coach who was an NCC commander situated in Berhampur. He had already made calls to his nearby platoon. They were also sending in some people.
You're right.
So when the authorities came in, the passengers who were not hurt, we were advised to go back to our coaches and sit down because they did not want any more unruly crowd or any crowded behavior in that. They did not want any intervention.
Okay.
That is what we did.
Now, Anubhav, thank you first of all for taking out time. I know, it can be very traumatic for someone who's gone through all of this. But the reason I asked you these questions is because people want to know about what actually happened, and who better than someone who was already on that train. Thank you for telling us about what you saw.